I watched my brother swing the fire axe one more time. And in that moment, I knew exactly how I would destroy him. The shattered glass from my $150,000 mixing console crunched under my feet as I stood frozen in the doorway of my studio. 3 hours ago, I had signed the biggest contract of my career with Marcus Reynolds, an A-list artist who could have worked with anyone in the world but chose me. I had driven home with my hands trembling on the steering wheel. Not from nerves, but from pure joy. After years of 16-hour days, of surviving on instant ramen while investing every penny into equipment, I had finally made it. Now, as I stared at the wreckage of everything I had built, my brother Liam turned toward me with the axe still raised above his head. Sweat dripped down his face, and his eyes held a wildness I had never seen before. Behind him, my sister Scarlett stood with her phone mounted on a ring light, live streaming the whole thing with a smile that made my blood run cold. "Look who finally decided to show up," Scarlett said, adjusting the camera angle to capture my face. "Everyone, meet my sister Aurora, the one I've been telling you about. The one who thinks she's too good for her own family." My voice came out as barely more than a whisper. "What are you doing?" Liam laughed, and it sounded nothing like the brother I grew up with. "What am I doing? I'm giving you a wake-up call. Little sister, you think you can just ignore your family? You think you can build this empire and leave us behind to struggle? I never left you behind. I offered to help you both. Multiple times." "Help?" Liam's face twisted with rage. He swung the axe again, and I flinched as it connected with my monitor, sending sparks flying. "You mean your condescending advice? Your lectures about working hard? This studio, your precious career, all of it is about to end." He swung the axe toward me, and I stumbled backward, my shoulder slamming into the doorframe. The pain was sharp and immediate, but nothing compared to the agony of watching my dreams literally being smashed to pieces. Scarlett zoomed in on my face with her camera. "Look at that expression. Everyone! That's the face of someone who's finally getting what she deserves. That's karma for being a greedy, self-centered sister who forgot where she came from." I slid down the wall, landing hard on my knees among the debris. Pieces of my custom soundboard, the one I had saved for 3 years to afford, lay scattered around me like broken promises. The tears came then, hot and angry. But underneath the pain was something else, something that felt almost like relief. Because in that moment, watching my brother destroy my life while my sister broadcasted it to the world, I stopped feeling guilty. I looked up at Liam, at Scarlett still filming with that smug expression, and I made myself a promise. They thought they had won. They thought breaking my equipment would force me to surrender, to finally become the walking ATM they had always wanted me to be. They had no idea what they had just unleashed. I had spent 34 years being the good daughter, the understanding sister, the one who tried to keep the peace. That version of me died right there on the floor of my destroyed studio. What rose in her place was someone who understood that sometimes the only way to save yourself is to let the people who hurt you face the consequences of their actions. I grew up in a working-class family where dreams were considered impractical. My father worked double shifts at the factory, and my mother cleaned houses to make ends meet. Liam was 3 years older than me, and Scarlett was 2 years younger. As the middle child, I learned early to be the mediator, the one who smoothed over conflicts and tried to keep everyone happy. Music was my escape. I taught myself production by watching YouTube videos on library computers and reading forums until 3 in the morning. My parents didn't understand it. To them, music wasn't a real job. But what they didn't see were the freelance gigs I started landing when I was 22. I worked as a waitress during the day and produced music at night, saving every dollar I didn't need for basic survival. Liam bounced from one failed business idea to another. First a gym, then a restaurant, then some tech startup he couldn't quite explain. Each venture required an investment. And each time, he came to me. "Come on, Aurora. Just lend me $20,000. I'll pay you back with interest once the business takes off." I said no the first time, and the guilt nearly killed me. He was my brother. Family was supposed to support each other. But his business plans were always half-baked. More fantasy than strategy. When his gym idea failed before it even started, he blamed everyone but himself. And underneath all those excuses, I could hear the real accusation. His sister, who was making good money, had refused to help him. Scarlett wanted to be an influencer, to be famous and admired. But she didn't want to put in years of consistent work. She wanted a shortcut. And she thought I was that shortcut. Aurora, just introduce me to Marcus Reynolds or any of those other artists you work with. One shout out from someone like that, and I'd blow up overnight. It doesn't work that way. Scarlett, these are professional relationships. I can't just ask them to promote my sister because we're related. Why not? That's what family does. But I guess you're too important now to remember where you came from. Those words stung every time. Precisely because they were designed to. My siblings had figured out that guilt was my weakness. They knew how much I valued family. How desperately I wanted us all to be close. So I tried to find middle ground. I offered to help Liam create a real business plan. To connect him with a mentor. He scoffed at the idea. He didn't want advice. He wanted cash. No strings attached. When I offered to teach Scarlett about content strategy, she rolled her eyes. She didn't want to learn. She wanted me to use my connections to make her instantly famous. Every time I set a boundary, they made me pay for it. At family dinners, they made pointed comments about how I had changed, how success had made me selfish. They told cleverly edited versions of reality that made me sound like a monster. My parents, exhausted from their own struggles and not understanding my industry, started to believe these narratives. I started dreading family gatherings. Every holiday became an interrogation about why I wasn't doing more for Liam and Scarlett. They made me feel guilty for my own success. Guilty for having the audacity to build something for myself. Then the demands crossed from uncomfortable into actively threatening. 6 months ago, Liam started a construction company. Except what he actually did was register a business name with no crew. No equipment. No licenses. No insurance. Aurora, I need you to invest $100,000 in this. It's going to be huge. Liam, I can't give you that kind of money for a business that doesn't exist yet. You need to start smaller. Get licensed. Build legitimately. His face darkened. Can't. Or won't? We both know which one this is. That's when the harassment started. Liam began calling me at all hours, leaving long, rambling voicemails about how I was a terrible sister. When I blocked his number, he started calling from other phones. He showed up at my studio unannounced, making scenes in front of my clients. Scarlett joined in with her own campaign. She started posting on social media about toxic family members who abandoned their loved ones. She never named me directly, but she made it obvious enough. Her few hundred followers started leaving nasty comments on my professional accounts. 3 months ago, Liam somehow got my personal information and started using my name to secure meetings with suppliers. He told them he was working with me, that I was backing his company. I started getting calls from equipment rental places asking about projects I knew nothing about. When I confronted him, he didn't even look ashamed. I'm just using your name to get my foot in the door. You should be flattered. You're committing fraud. Liam, stop using my name, or I will take legal action. He laughed. You'd sue your own brother? The old Aurora would never have been this cold. Scarlett escalated too. She started creating edited videos, content carefully crafted to paint me as a villain. She would film herself crying about how her successful sister refused to help her. She conveniently left out every conversation where she had demanded I do all the work for her. Her follower count started growing, and she was loving it. For the first time, Scarlett was getting attention, and all she had to do was villainize me. Then came the day that changed everything. I had spent 3 months courting Marcus Reynolds as a potential client. When he finally agreed, when I walked out with a signed contract worth over $2 million, I felt like I could finally breathe. I drove home with the windows down, genuinely happy for the first time in months. I should have known that happiness never lasted long in my family. The moment I pulled into my driveway, I noticed the front door was ajar. My studio door was wide open too. My stomach dropped. I had good security, but I had given the code to my siblings months ago when I still believed family meant mutual respect. I rushed inside and heard the smashing husband, the sound of destruction so violent it made my ears ring. That's when I saw what I described at the beginning. My brother destroying everything I had built while my sister filmed it with glee. After they left, Scarlett still filming, I just sat there among the wreckage for a long time. long enough for the shock to wear off, for something harder and colder to settle in my chest. I realized this wasn't about money. This was about control. Liam and Scarlett couldn't stand that I had succeeded without them. And because they couldn't control me through normal means, they had resorted to destruction. Well, if they wanted destruction, I would show them what that really meant. I pulled out my phone and called Ben Carter, my best friend since childhood and now one of the most respected entertainment lawyers in the state. He had witnessed every stage of my family's escalating behavior and had offered multiple times to help me deal with it legally. I had always said no, always hoped I could resolve things without getting lawyers involved. I was done hoping. Ben, I said when he answered, I need your help. And I need you to understand that I'm not looking for a peaceful resolution anymore. It's about time. I'll be there in 20 minutes. He arrived with a crime scene investigator and a photographer. We documented everything. Every shattered piece of equipment. Every gouge in the walls. Every frame of the security footage that showed Liam breaking in and systematically destroying my studio while Scarlett filmed. The footage had audio too. Crystal clear recordings of them talking about how this would force me to give them what they wanted. This is more than enough for criminal charges, Ben said. Destruction of property. Breaking and entering. Potentially even assault given that he swung an axe at you. I want more than criminal charges, I said, my voice calm and cold. I want to make sure they can never do this to anyone else. Ben nodded slowly. Then we need to be strategic. We build a comprehensive case that addresses every aspect of their behavior. The fraud, the harassment, the financial manipulation, all of it. I moved into Ben's guest room that night. Over the next 3 weeks, I became someone I barely recognized. The Aurora, who had spent years trying to be understanding, was gone. In her place was someone focused and methodical. Someone who understood that being kind didn't mean being a doormat. Ben and I worked systematically. We compiled every request for money, every demand, every threat from years of messages and emails. The pattern was undeniable. I contacted my bank and discovered Liam had tried to take out a loan using my name. I filed an identity theft report. We collected statements from businesses who felt defrauded by his claims that I was backing his company. For Scarlett, we documented her entire social media campaign. Ben hired a digital forensics expert who archived every post, every edited video, every comment. We identified several instances where she had used manipulative editing to make me appear cruel. But we didn't stop there. Ben suggested we look for other victims. We found them. Liam had scammed my Uncle Robert out of $15,000 3 years ago. Robert had never pursued legal action because he didn't want to cause family drama. He was more than happy to provide a statement now. We found 2 women Scarlett had scammed on dating apps, promising them access to exclusive events in exchange for money. They had been too embarrassed to report it but were willing to come forward now. Ben worked with his network to prepare everything. He contacted the state licensing board about Liam's unlicensed construction company. He worked with the cybercrime division about Scarlett's harassment campaign. He prepared civil suits for the property damage, the identity theft, the defamation. But legal consequences weren't enough. I reached out to my network in the entertainment industry. I didn't ask for favors. I simply made sure people were aware of the situation, that they knew Liam and Scarlett had a history of fraud and manipulation. The word spread quietly but effectively. 3 weeks after the studio destruction, everything was in place. Then came the phone call. Aurora. My mother's voice was tight with forced cheer. We're having a family intervention for you this Sunday. Everyone will be there. We think it's time we all sat down and worked through this. An intervention. For me? As if I was the problem. What time? I asked calmly. 2 o'clock. I'll be there. Sunday arrived, and I dressed carefully. Simple clothes. No makeup. Hair hanging limply. I wanted to look defeated. I wanted them to think their strategy had worked. Ben drove me to my parents' house. We had a van following us with 2 police officers inside, waiting for our signal. The whole family was there. My parents, Liam and Scarlett, relatives who had been told I was the problem. Scarlett had her phone out. Live streaming, of course. Aurora. Thank you for coming, my father said uncomfortably. Liam leaned forward with gleam of victory in his eyes. We know the studio thing was harsh, but you forced our hand. Now we're here to make this right. We've prepared a list of very reasonable requests. Scarlett chimed in sweetly for the camera. We just want you to invest in Liam's business. Use your connections to help my career. And publicly acknowledge that you've been wrong to prioritize money over family. I reached into my bag slowly, and Liam tensed, probably expecting a checkbook. Instead, I pulled out a USB drive. Before we discuss your requests, I said quietly, I think everyone should see something. I walked to the TV and plugged in the drive. The security footage started playing. Everyone watched in horrified silence as Liam systematically destroyed my equipment with the fire axe. The audio was clear. His voice shouting about teaching me a lesson. Scarlett laughing and encouraging him. My mother's hand went to her mouth. My father's face went pale. The video continued. Liam swinging the axe at me. Me falling. Scarlett zooming in on my face. Narrating about karma and greed. When it ended, the room was silent except for Scarlett's livestream notifications. She fumbled to turn it off, but I smiled. Oh, please leave it on. Scarlett, I think your followers should see all of this. For the next 30 minutes, I walked them through everything. Every fraudulent use of my name by Liam, complete with statements from suppliers. Every scam, including the money taken from Uncle Robert. Evidence of his unlicensed business operation. His attempts to take out loans in my name. Then Scarlett's turn. Every manipulated video. Every lie. Every harassment attempt. Screenshots of her fake follower purchases. Evidence of her dating app scams. My family sat there stunned. My parents were crying. Uncle Robert looked vindicated. But you're here for an intervention, I said steadily. So let me make this clear. I'm not giving either of you one more dollar. I'm not opening one more door. I'm not sacrificing one more thing for family while you drain me dry. That's when Ben walked in carrying a briefcase. Liam Hayes. Scarlett Hayes. I'm Benjamin Carter. Attorney at law. I'm representing Aurora Hayes in both criminal and civil matters. He handed them each a thick folder. You're being charged with multiple crimes. Liam. Destruction of property. Trespassing. Assault. Fraud. Identity theft. And operating an unlicensed business. Scarlett. Harassment. Defamation. Fraud. And you're an accessory to your brother's property destruction. Liam's face went from red to white. You can't be serious. She's our sister. A sister you assaulted with a deadly weapon while destroying her livelihood. Ben replied coldly. The police are outside right now. The civil suits are in there too. I added. I'm suing you both for everything. But that's just the beginning. I turned to Liam. Your business license has been permanently revoked. Every licensing board in this state knows about your fraudulent practices. You're banned from operating a construction company ever. And every supplier you tried to scam is pursuing their own legal actions. His mouth opened and closed. No sound coming out. I looked at Scarlett. Your social media accounts are being shut down. Every major platform has been notified of your harassment and fraud. You're banned. And every brand. Every PR firm. Every agency knows exactly who you are now. The influencer dream you built on lies? It's over. Scarlett's face crumpled. You can't do this. And I made sure everyone who matters in the industry knows what you did. Your face. Your name. They're poison now. Just like you tried to make mine. I looked at my parents. I tried to do right by this family. I tried to help in ways that would actually matter. But you listened to their lies. You pressured me to enable their destructive behavior. My mother was sobbing. Aurora. We didn't know. I did change. Mom. I finally learned that I don't owe anyone access to my life just because we share DNA. Family is supposed to protect each other. But that goes both ways. The police came in then and led them out in handcuffs. Scarlett was crying. Begging. Liam was raging. Shouting about betrayal. I felt nothing but relief. In the weeks that followed, everything unfolded as planned. Liam was convicted and sentenced to 2 years in prison. His construction company was dissolved. and he was ordered to pay restitution he could never afford, meaning his wages would be garnished for decades. Scarlett avoided prison but was put on probation with significant fines. Every social media platform permanently banned her. She tried to create new accounts, but I had set up alerts, and each was reported and removed within hours. More importantly, their reputations were destroyed. The full story came out with undeniable evidence. Some of Scarlett's former followers even apologized for the hateful comments they had left on my accounts. My parents tried to maintain a relationship with me, but I kept firm boundaries. I would see them occasionally, on my terms. And the moment they made excuses for Liam or Scarlett, I would leave. My career exploded after the truth came out. People in the industry respected how I had handled the situation with integrity. Marcus Reynolds called me personally. Anyone who can handle that kind of pressure with that much integrity is exactly who I want producing my album. I used the insurance payout and settlement money to build a new studio in a commercial space with excellent security. The first day I walked in, I felt pure, uncomplicated joy. This space was mine, built with money I earned, free from the shadow of family obligation and guilt. The Marcus Reynolds project went platinum and won 2 Grammys. I found myself on stage accepting one, trying not to cry as I thanked everyone who had supported me. I didn't thank my family. A year ago, that would have felt wrong. Now it just felt honest. My career continued to soar. Other A-list artists wanted to work with me. I hired an assistant, then a business manager. I was building something sustainable that could grow beyond just me. A year after everything fell apart, I was working late in my studio on a track for a new artist. As I adjusted the levels, I thought about the journey that had brought me here. The scared girl who thought saying no made her a bad person. The woman who endured years of abuse because she valued peace over her own well-being. The moment that finally forced her to see the truth. And the person I had become. Someone who understood that loving yourself means protecting yourself, even from people you wish you could trust. Someone who knew that real family doesn't require you to set yourself on fire to keep them warm. My phone rang, and I smiled when I saw Ben's name. It's almost midnight. I wanted to call about something. I have a client dealing with a family situation that sounds familiar. Financial exploitation. Emotional manipulation. She's scared to set boundaries. I thought maybe you could talk to her. I hesitated. Talking about what happened still hurt. But then I thought about how alone I had felt. Yeah, I said. I can talk to her. The young woman called me 3 days later. Her voice was shaky, filled with guilt and confusion. She told me about her sister who kept asking for money, about feeling torn apart by competing obligations. I feel like such a terrible person for considering saying no, she said. Let me ask you something, I said gently. When was the last time they helped you? When was the last time they respected your boundaries? There was a long silence. I can't remember. That tells you everything you need to know. Real family goes both ways. Support, respect, care. Those should be mutual. If you're always giving and they're always taking, that's not family. That's exploitation dressed up in family language. We talked for over an hour. I told her my story without sparing the ugly details. Setting boundaries with family is hard, I said. But you know what's worse? Spending your whole life being diminished by people who claim to love you but only value what you can do for them. After we hung up, I felt emotionally drained but purposeful. Maybe sharing my story could help someone else realize they deserved better. 2 years after the intervention, I was invited to speak at a conference for young entrepreneurs. I stood on stage in front of 500 people and told them the core of my story. The hardest lesson I learned, I said, was that not everyone who claims to love you has your best interests at heart. Some people will use the language of love and family to manipulate you. And the guilt you feel when you finally say no, that guilt is not evidence that you're doing something wrong. It's evidence that you've been conditioned to prioritize other people's comfort over your own well-being. I paused. You're going to meet people who think your success means you owe them something. Here's what I want you to know. You don't. You don't owe anyone access to your life just because they demand it. Generosity is beautiful. But forced generosity is just exploitation with a prettier name. The applause was thunderous. Dozens of people came up afterward to share their own stories of family pressure, of struggling to set boundaries. Many were crying. I realized this pain was far more common than I had thought. And sharing my story helped others feel less alone. That's when I knew I had truly healed. When I could take the worst experience of my life and transform it into something that helped others. I stood in my studio that night and started laying down a new track. As I worked, I thought about the title, The Symphony of Destruction, because that's what my siblings had tried to create. They had tried to destroy me, to break me down. But destruction isn't always the end. Sometimes it's the clearing away of something rotten to make room for something stronger. The track came together beautifully. Dark and powerful with an undercurrent of hope. It sounded like rage and grief and triumph all mixed together. It sounded like the journey from victim to survivor to someone genuinely thriving. When I finished, dawn was breaking outside. I saved the file and sat back. My phone buzzed with a text from Ben. Early morning session? I smiled and texted back. Just creating. I'll sleep later. Coffee when you wake up? Definitely. Thanks for always being there. That's what real family does. And he was right. Real family isn't always about blood. It's about people who show up for you, consistently. Who celebrate your successes without resentment. Who respect your boundaries. Ben had been more of a brother to me than Liam ever was. I had spent years thinking I was obligated to accept whatever treatment my blood relatives gave me, simply because we shared DNA. I had believed that walking away made me a failure. I was wrong about all of it. Walking away from toxicity isn't failure. It's success. Setting boundaries isn't selfish. It's necessary. Protecting yourself isn't cold. It's wisdom. As I headed home to finally sleep, I felt at peace in a way I never had when I was trying to please everyone. The peace of knowing I had done the right thing, even when it was hard. The peace of knowing my success was truly mine, built on my own merit, untainted by guilt. I had survived the symphony of destruction they tried to compose. And in surviving, I had learned to create my own music, my own story, my own life. I was Aurora Hayes, and I had thrived. And this symphony, the one I was still composing, would be beautiful not because it was easy, but because it was authentically, powerfully, undeniably mine.